exhalation, bow your head. Connect your head with your heart. And release your hands to your thighs, palms up. And slowly raise your head. Slowly open your eyes. From here, with an inhalation, raise your arms up. And as you raise your arms up, it's not just bringing the shoulders up, it's a lengthening all the way from your waist up to your armpit, a lengthening of your upper arm, your forearm, and your hands. Right? So look up at your hands and see, are they going out? Sometimes we do this funny pushing the fingers towards each other. So look at the hands and make the hands like a blade. Make the forearms tight, the upper arm bones tight, and then lift up and find that extension through the sides of your torso. Right? Now you're going to maintain that. All that you're going to do is bring your arms down, but maintain that height in the sides of the torso, and then twist to your right. Pull with that left hand on the knee. You can grab the blankets or the floor that you're sitting on and pull with the opposite hand and turn your torso as much as you can. Turn your nose as much as you can. And then release. Again, big deep inhalation up. Lengthen through the sides of your torso. And bring the arms down, maintaining that height with an exhalation twist. Exhale and turn. See how much twist you can get out of your back, out of your neck. Don't just turn your eyes. In fact, close your eyes and then think of turning your head. And then come back to center. We'll do the opposite cross of the legs. Adjust your sit bones as needed. Be even sitting on the blankets. Right? And then same thing. With an inhalation, bring the arms up. Think of pressing down at the outer hips as you lift up through the sides of your torso. You'll feel this abdomen thin out a little bit. It may feel as if it's moving in and up somewhat. Lift up. As if someone is at your armpits, pulling your torso up. Lift up your upper arm bones. Think of sucking this tricep into the bone so that elbow gets nice and straight. Reach up through your forearms. Reach up through your pinky fingers, through your middle fingers, through your index fingers and thumbs. And then maintain that height as you bring the arms down. Twist to your right. See if you can get a little bit more twist on the second time. And then keeping the height, twist the opposite direction. Pull with your hands and create that twist. Use your exhalation. As you exhale and soften that abdomen, can you turn more? Close your eyes, turn your head. All right, and then release. Take the legs out straight. And we're going to do the same thing. Join your feet. Look at your feet. You want to make sure that those inner feet are pushing forward. So it's as if you were standing on the floor there. All right, press down with your hands and get the lift of your torso. And then with an inhalation, lift up. And same thing. Think of this outer, there's weight on your outer hips, taking your outer hips down. And from there, you're lifting up. Lifting up. From the armpit, someone's pulling. Suck the tricep up onto the bone, lift up. Okay, now maintain that height as you bring your arms down. Don't lose that height in your torso. And now twist to your right. So hand can go to the outer thigh Other hand can grab the mat or the blankets that you're sitting on, and you'll twist. Turn your head, turn your chest. Exhale and see, can you turn the abdomen any amount? Okay. Come back to center. Let's inhale and bring the arms up. Get that length in the torso. Press your thighs down, lift up through your arms. Look up slightly, maintain that height. And then twist to your left. Exhale, turn your belly. Turn your rib cage. Roll that left shoulder back. Close your eyes and turn your head. If you close your eyes, you won't overstrain the eyes. Sometimes we can turn our eyes more than our head, and then we get a headache. All right, and then come back to center. Cross your legs one more time. Right, and then we're going to need some blocks and a strap. Let's start by coming into Uttanasana, downward facing dog pose. All right, this doesn't have to be we'll work this pose a little bit more, but just place your hands out in front of you. Your feet will be to the back edge of your mat, and you'll lift up, come into Uttanasana. Now, depending on the time of day and the flexibility in your hamstrings, you may feel very tight in the backs of the legs. So bend one knee and straighten the other, and press that heel down towards the floor. Try to open up the back of the straight leg. And then bend the other leg, straighten the opposite leg, press the heel down. Right? So do that a couple of times on your own. Even if you're feeling pretty flexible, can you lift your toes up and get your heel all the way down? And then after a couple of rounds, straighten both legs. Press with your hands to shift that weight into the heels. And see, can you get the heels down? Take a couple of breaths. All right, and then we'll walk the hands and feet towards each other. Place your hands onto your hips and come up. All right, I'm going to turn my mat. You'll need your 2 blocks. We're just taking kind of a basic forward bend class this week. Nothing super fancy or crazy. A little ease into the first round of holidays. So you can place your blocks on one edge of your mat. Let's go ahead and bring them up tall. Whether you need them tall or not, let's go ahead and make them tall. And let's step that right foot up in between the blocks. Go ahead and bring your hands down onto the blocks, and you're going to step that left foot back. Now you don't want the left foot crossing over the line of the right foot. All right, so look to see. Maybe you are right heel in line with left heel. All right, you could even just kind of heel toe over with that right foot just a little bit and have a little bit of a gap horizontally between the heels. What you want to find is that when that right leg is straight, you can square your hips to this head side of your mat, right? So if that right foot is too much to the left, it's going to be hard to get that. That left hip isn't going to want to come forward. So give yourself a little bit of room. Bend your right knee a bit, right? And with the right knee bent, can you square up your hips? So let that left hip come forward, right hip come back. Press into that left heel. All right, and then you're just going to straighten that right leg. Bend it, straighten. Bend it, and straighten. Hold it straight. And then I want you to feel, all right, I want you to feel where your sit bones are. What are the tops of your buttocks doing? All right? For many of us, we kind of round our back. All right? So those buttocks are really coming down towards the left heel. I want you to think of taking the sit bone, all right, mostly on the right side, but you can't see my right side too well. Here, I'll switch. All right? I want you to think of moving that sit bone straight back to the wall behind you. All right? So you can see here how it's kind of coming down towards the floor a little bit. All right? As I straighten that leg, I'm going to try to move that sit bone back towards the wall behind me. And you start to see how this hip moves back, and this area here in my lower back, it kind of comes in a bit. All right? So really think as you bend that right knee that somebody has just hooked a rope into that sit bone, and as you straighten that leg, that sit bone moves back. And you feel length come into your back. Okay? All right? Let's switch sides. All right? You can take the left foot forward, right foot back. All right? And then that's the same thing. Just bend and straighten a few times. We're warming up the hamstrings a little bit. So just bend and straighten. Don't worry too much about the hips. All right? And then bend that leg. Think of the hook being in the sit bone there. All right? And as you straighten the leg, you're taking that sit bone straight back to the wall behind you. You should feel, you can see it on my left side here. I'm the opposite of you. I have my right foot forward, left foot back. Right? So you should feel in that right hip, as you take the left sit bone back, the right hip rolls forward some. All right, so just work that a couple of times. Think of taking that sit bone back. Sit bone back. All right, and then you can just step the feet together there in the center of the mat. And inhale and come up. Be in Tadasana. Take a couple of breaths there in Tadasana. Now, you're going to proceed as you feel your capacity is today. All right? So these blocks have 3 heights, and we have the floor, right? So if tall was plenty tough for you this morning, then stay with tall blocks. If you think you could lower your blocks, you can lower your blocks. Of course, you can always lower your blocks and decide you need to raise them back up, right? Okay, so let's go. I'll be the same side as you, right leg forward, left leg back. You can take the right leg forward, put your hands down, and then step the left foot back if you would like. Test the hips. Can you move the hips? Can that left hip come forward? If not, adjust the right foot a bit. All right, and then bend that right knee. That hook is in that right sit bone, and you're just going to press into the inner edge of that right foot and pull back at that sit bone. Couple of times. Bend and straighten. On the third time, you can hold that leg straight. And then I really want you to think, sit bone back. I want you to lift your chin and take your sternum bone and your chin forward. Press into your hands. Take a couple of breaths here. All right, and then you can step the feet, left foot forward, right foot back. Adjust the distance between the feet as necessary, and then bend and straighten, thinking about moving that sit bone back. Move the left sit bone back, right hip forward. On your third time, hold it straight, lift your chin, and move your sternum bone forward. Nice concave back. Press into your hands. Use your hands. Since we're putting them on the floor, let's use them. All right, and then we'll step the feet together. Stand up. Me in Uttanasana. Just take a couple of breaths here. Okay, we'll use the blocks at the height that we're at now. We're going to walk them forward some and get a little bit more length from the torso. All right, so right foot is forward, hands come down, left foot goes back. And you're going to do that same thing again. You're going to pulse that right leg a few times. We're not just willy-nilly pulsing the leg now. We've got the hamstrings stretching. So let's think of pressing into that inner edge of the foot, taking that sit bone back, sternum bone and chin forward. All right, do that a couple of times. And then on your third time, hold. Sit bone back, sternum bone and chin forward. Now, take your hand forward any amount. All right, and as you go forward, you start to come lower into the pose. You feel that? All right, press into that inner foot, take that sit bone back. You're looking down at your toes maybe now. Take your chin and your sternum bone towards your toes. You can even take your hands down to the floor now if that's more comfortable. For those of you who are flexible, those of you that need to stay up on the blocks and just go straight forward, go straight forward. That's fine. Breathe. All right, and then walk your hands back so the hands are under the shoulders. You could bring the blocks if you wanted to. And we're just going to set the feet together again. Stand up in Padottanasana. Breathe. Mostly focusing on what's happening in the pelvis today. Of course, there's a lot we could talk about in Parsvottanasana. All right, bring your blocks back. Left foot will be in front, right foot will be back. Now we're intentionally doing the bend and straighten, thinking about taking the sit bone back. All right, so a couple of times, press into that inner edge of the left foot and move that sit bone back. You can turn the outer right hip forward. On your third time, hold. Take that sternum bone and chin forward. See if you can, from the top of your sacrum, move forward towards your head more. Press into your hands. Use your arms. All right, and then take those hands forward. You can use the blocks to do that if you want. If you could go a bit lower, just push the blocks out of the way and use your hands on the floor. Now that sit bone, that left sit bone is still moving back. Chin and sternum bone are moving down towards the toes or straight forward, depending on your alignment. Feel like there's a bit of a waterfall here at the sacrum, falling over towards your head. Sit bone back. Sit bone back. Sternum bone, chin forward. Breathe. All right, and then you can step that back foot forward some, front foot forward, back, and stand up in Uttanasana. Right, I'm just going to turn my mat so that you see my profile when I'm in the forward bend. You can, of course, still face your screen, no problem. We're going to work the wide leg forward bend before we go to feet together. Now when the feet get really wide, it gets a little harder to tell what the alignment is. All right, so one thing that we do with Prasarita Padottanasana is we take the heels right to the edge of the mat, right? And then that way, if you know that the heels are right at the edge of the mat, your feet are in line. All right, now we need to be hands above the feet. So you see here how this is not nearly wide enough apart, right? So I have to take my feet wider, 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 until I'm just about hands over ankles. All right, so place your heels at the edge of your mat. A good indicator is to have about a little less than a foot of distance from your foot to the end of your mat, right? Most mats are about 6 feet long. You want your feet here to be about 4.5 to 5 feet apart. Some of that does depend on your height, right? Now just place your hands onto your hips, and with an exhalation, we're going to come forward. You've got blocks if you need them, all right? You can come to the floor. Most of us can come to the floor because we're a lot closer to the floor with the feet this way. Right? We're going to do the same thing that we just did. Palms down is best. So if you want a little bit of height, you could put your hands on some small blocks, some low blocks. Right? We're just going to bend the knees a little bit. They don't have to go much. Just think of softening the knees. All right? And then as you straighten the knees, you're not just rounding the back to straighten the knees. All right? I want you, again, thinking about those sit bones. Now they'll feel a little bit more like they're coming up. All right? Just bend and straighten. Try to bring those sit bones up. What you're doing, you see what's happening in my pelvis, right? Here, my pelvis is more in a posterior tilt position. All right, and then as I straighten my knees and I lift the sit bones up, the sit bones are just the bottom of the pelvis. All right, so I'm able to bring the top of the pelvis down. And you may feel like you're arching your lower back here with the hands down. That's fine. You can have a little bit of an arch in your lower back. All right, sternum bone and chin forward. All right. Now, if you need your hands on blocks, you'll stay with this. All right. If you can bend your elbows, then I want you to put your hands on the floor. All right. If you can't bend your elbows with your hands on your blocks, then just stay in the concave back. But if you're even on the blocks and you can bend your elbows, right, put your hands flat on the floor. All right, now we're going to take the hands back in between the feet. All right, so set the hands back. The heel of your hand will go back to that edge of the mat. All right, at shoulder width apart. All right, and then you're going to bend the elbows back. It doesn't matter if your head doesn't come to the floor. You're just going to bend the elbows back and see how low towards the floor can you take your head. You can even pulse it just a little bit. Okay, now, if you soften your knees a bit, if you bend your knees a little bit, can you get your head down onto the floor? The hips will have to come forward a little bit. If you can, then you might have to walk your hands back a little farther. Can you straighten your legs? The hands are going to have to feel like they're pushing forward. They have to be your counterbalance. All right, so push forward with those hands as you straighten your knees. You do get a little bit of roundness in the back. And the more your head is in, the more it's going to feel like you're on the top of your head or even rolling a little bit towards the back of your head. All right, and then come out, heel toe in, and stand up. the floor. You have blocks and you have blankets. You can create a little tower for your head to touch down. Okay, so let me kind of show what that might look like. All right, so with my feet nice and wide, I can get down at least to my fingertips. All right, so I'm going to pull a block in. And if the higher the height, the more you'll be towards the front of your head. The lower the height, the more you'll be towards the back of your head. Right, so here, I can take my hands back, maybe not in between my feet, but I can take my hands back, and I can bend my elbows, and I can bring my forehead down. Okay, so that's kind of stage one. You've got the medium block, right? Hands can go farther back. The lower the head, the farther back the hands can go. Right, you've got the low block. You see I'm getting more to the top of my head here. And if you just felt like you just needed a smidge, you can put a blanket in there. Okay? Now, I feel like I'm having to kind of push down to get my head down onto that blanket. So what I can do is I can just take my feet a little bit wider. And that just plunks me down onto the blanket. All right? So find your height where you can have your head down. It's a 5-point pose, 2 feet, 2 hands. All right, so you're just going to play with that. You've got your blocks, you've got your blanket. Once you figure it out, heel toe in and stand up. And just leave your support there in the middle of your mat. When you figured it out, heel toe in and stand up. All right, so here we go. We're going to go into this 2 different ways. All right, we're going to go into it through a concave back. So there'll be a pause with the arms straight. We'll walk the hands back and we'll take the head down. That's the first way we're going. All right, so take your feet nice and wide. You kind of know now how wide they need to be so you can get your head down. You can always adjust. All right, nice and wide. All right, and then we're going to take the hands down. You're going to bend your knees a tiny bit. You see my knees are barely bent. All right, and then as I straighten, I'm going to lift those hip bones up towards the ceiling. Look forward. Reach the chin and the sternum bone forward. All right, press into the feet, straighten your legs. All right, now depending on the height you use, that's going to kind of dictate where your hands can go. The lower the height, the farther back the hands go. The lower the height, the more you're on the back of your head. All right, so I want you to kind of keep looking down so you're lengthening. Keep your chin up. Take your eyes down first, and then you can tuck the chin and bring the head down. When you get there, press into those feet and lift those sit bones up towards the ceiling. Right? So you're really straightening the legs by lengthening the leg. Press into the outer heels, inner heels. Lift the sit bones up. Head down. Even if it's on, you can build 2 blocks if you need 2 blocks. Right? And then press into your hands, come up. Walk your hands forward. Heel toe in. We're going to take a break in between each forward bend today. All right, and then stand up. And you can just step behind your support and be in Tadasana for a moment. Take a couple of breaths. Now, if you're not going very low, then you might want to go through those steps again. All right? Where you're really getting that lengthening in the torso. This time, we're going to take the legs wide. We're going to lengthen when we're standing up, and then we're just going to go into the forward bend. Okay? So take your feet back onto the mat. Go nice and wide with the feet. All right? If you're using a very tall height, all right, it's going to be better for you to place the hands, lengthen, and then bring the head down. All right? Those of you who are on at least a medium height block or lower, all right, you're going to do this with me. All right? So hands on your hips, press into your feet and straighten your knees, and lift up through your chest. All right? So you're getting that kind of back arch right now. The pelvis is tilting forward. All right? Chin and sternum bone are up. All right? Now press into your legs. Be firm in your legs with an exhalation. Come forward, come forward, come forward. Take your chin, your eyeballs down to the floor. Place your hands, tuck your chin, and in you go. Breathe. Press into those feet and lift those sit bones up. And when you do that, you might feel more weight in your head, mostly because it makes we tend to hang backwards with our hips a little bit. So when you bend your knees and think of taking the sit bones straight up, you bring that pelvis a bit more in line with your ankles. There'll be more weight in your head. Feel the weight in your head. Breathe. All right, and we're just going to stand up from here. If you need to soften the knees, you can soften the knees, but you're going to stand up straight with the legs wide. Maybe. If you need to heel toe in, heel toe in. All right, and then once you're here, bring the feet in. All right, you can step behind your support if you're using support that's in your way. Just be in Tadasana for a moment. Okay, now we're going to work with the legs closer together. All right, they don't have to be touching. All right, if you're using your mat horizontally, they can be as wide as the mat to start with. All right, or you can start a little bit more hip width apart. All right, we don't have to be right next to each other touching. All right, I'm going to give you a profile view. You've got your blocks, right? Everybody will come to the blocks for the first one, and then we'll decide what we're going to do. Now, do look down at your feet, and you want the feet aligned, right? There's different ways to align. You could have the outer edges of the feet parallel to each other. That makes you feel a little bit pigeon-toed. You can have the inner edges of the feet parallel. I'm kind of liking inner edges of the feet parallel simply because when I come to Uttanasana, the inner edges of my feet are parallel. Right? So inner edges of the feet can be parallel. You don't want the toes turning out. You don't want one foot forward, other foot out. Make them even. Same thing, you want the toes in the same alignment. All right? So if you kind of want a little judge of character, you can put your big toes right at the edge of the mat to line up the toes. I think most of it, though, you can just look down and see your feet. All right? Now with an exhalation, come forward and place your hands onto the blocks. And what we're aiming for here is to not have the hips behind the heels. All right? So shift your weight forward a bit so you feel that the weight is kind of at this front edge of the heel. Lots of times we feel it more towards the back edge of the heel. I want you to feel it more mid-foot, front of heel. All right? Bend your knees slightly, all right? And you're taking those sit bones up. Do that several times. Bend the knees, and then sit bones up. Bend the knees, sit bones up. All right? And then just hang out there in your Uttanasana. Can you lower your blocks? Press into your hands. If you want to rebend the knees and lift the sit bones, you can do that. Press into your hands though. Think about lifting those sit bones towards the ceiling. Can you lower your blocks? When you get to your nope, you just stay where you are. Bend your knees, lift your sit bones. Take that chin and sternum bone forward. You may not be looking across the room, but look at the floor in front of where your hands are. Right? So we want to not be looking back and rounding the back. We want to be lengthening the whole back. Bend your knees and lift your sit bones as you straighten the knees. Can you come down to fingertips? Bend the knees. As you straighten the knees, lift the sit bones. Chin and sternum bone forward. Can you go to flat palms? Bend your knees. To straighten the knees, lift the sit bones. All right, and then you can shift the weight into the backs of the heels now. You can soften your knees, and you can stand up. Roll the arm bones back. Stand in Tadasana. Now, Tadasana is palms facing the sides, but I like to get that nice stretch so you can pull the arms back a little bit. Okay, let's take now, take your 2 blankets and put them down. Actually, let's just try 1 blanket. Have a second blanket handy, but let's just have 1 blanket. Have a seat on your mat, and we're going to bring the soles of the feet together in Konasana. Scoot forward so that it's just your sit bones up on that blanket. Right? My thighs here are on the mat. I can even feel kind of the front part of my buttock, or the front part, the bottom of my buttock is on the mat. It's just my sit bones being lifted up. That's giving us that same pelvic tilt. Right? You can hold your ankles, you can hold your feet, you could have your hands back behind you, pressing to sit up, and we'll just wiggle the legs a little bit in Padottanasana. And I forgot to remind everyone to have a strap nearby, so if you need to go grab a strap, go and grab yourself a strap. Start to slow down that pulsing of the knees and really thinking, moving from the inner groin to the outer knee. You see how much I lift up when I'm doing that action, right? Because it engages the glute muscles. Pull back from the outer knees to the outer hips and make that glute engage. And if you can hold the knees down, hold the knees down. Okay, let's keep the left leg straight, bent, and let's straighten the right leg. And then pull this foot in. You see how I'm kind of by my knee? I'm just going to see, can I pull it in a little bit more? Now, if this knee stays up like this, all right, the first thing to try is that lengthening from the inner groin to the inner knee and pulling back from the outer knee to the outer hip. So I'm going to lift my buttocks up just a smidge, and I'm going to take that knee down, and then see when I come back down, will it stay down? Right? If it pops back up on you, take your extra blanket and put that under the knee. And you can fold it to whatever height it needs to be. But we want that knee to be supported. If you're finding, you see how I'm here, I'm on this double folded blanket, my knee has become higher than my hip, that's when you want to add more height under your buttocks, for sure. right? So if you're finding that you're in this position, then take another blanket or two to go under your sit bones. And then you can have an extra blanket. You want that knee to be at least the height of your hips or even lower. Okay, so here we go. We're sitting, we've pulled the foot in, we've lifted up, we've taken that knee down. I want you to keep your right hand down, reach up through your left arm. All right, and you're going to come forward and hold the inner edge of your foot. If your arms aren't long enough today, you can take a strap. Take that strap around the foot and hold the strap. All right, now we're working the same thing that we were working when we were standing. All right, the sit bones don't move back as easily, right? Because they're stuck to the blanket or the mat, whatever they happen to be stuck to. All right, so you have to really think about this. All right, as you pull on that strap with your hands and you lift up, I want you to feel as if you're moving your sit bones back. It's really more the top of the pelvis. All right, so just kind of think of taking this part of the pelvis up and forward. So you feel like you can sit up nice and tall. When the pelvis tips forward, you can get that length in the torso. If the pelvis is dropping backward, it's really hard to get that height. You have to give yourself more room on the strap. All right, now if you're finding that you just can't get any mobility in the pelvis, even if your knee is down, then you might want to add another blanket. All right, let's switch that. Let's bring this leg back into the bent knee position and then straighten the other leg, left leg. All right, now I've got some knee stuff going on. My knee's probably going to stay up, so I'll have some support. As you press down with your hands and lift up, remember inner groin to inner knee to outer hip. You're trying to get that knee down and then see, does it stay down? I need a little bit of height. I have a little pull in that knee that's not comfortable. Bring this foot in as much as you can. That's about as much as I can. All right, and then as you press down and lift up, remember we're lifting all the way through. Reach up through your right arm. Find that height, just like we did at the beginning of class. Find that length all the way from the hip up. Come forward and hold the foot or the strap. You can bring your other hand forward for support. Then as you press your thighs down, you're taking those sit bones back. As you pull with your hand, you're trying to tip that front of the pelvis forward. Get as much height and length in your torso as you can. You can lift your chin, lift your sternum bone, and breathe. All right, and then release and come up. Straighten out that leg. Okay, we're going to take now Janu Sirsasana, which some folks call where we were kind of the first stage of Janu Sirsasana. Now, with Janu Sirsasana, we're pulling the knee back. And so if you're sitting on your blanket this way, right, the blanket can get in the way of the thigh. So I want you to turn your blanket so that the corner is forward. You have to pretend that this is a square, all right, because you want these angles to be about even, all right? So you're going to place that on the back edge of your mat, all right? And then when you sit down, you'll have your sit bones on the blanket. You may have some blanket out there in front, but then you see you have mat to each side. All right, so as we bend the knee and pull the leg back, you can be on sticky mat and not have the blanket getting in your way. You'll need your strap nearby. All right, we're going to bring this left leg into Konasana. And then we're going to come under the ankle, under the foot, roll the shin bone down towards the floor, and pull the knee back. Okay, so same thing goes here. If that knee stays up, if it's at the height of your hip or lower, blanket will come under. If you're way up high and you can't get it to come down, then more height under your sit bones. All right, but let's start with that little lift up, inner groin to inner knee to outer hip, and just see, can you get that knee to come down? All right, make this straight leg be parallel with the sides of the mat. All right, and we're going to change things up just a bit here. Have your strap where you can reach it, but we're going to turn, all right, and we're going to lay over this bent leg. This hip can come up, that's fine, but I want you to turn towards that bent knee and feel how when you put your weight onto it, you feel that outer thigh presses down. If you can't be here, then you need to consider more height under your sit bones or support under your knee. All right, now just a couple of times without lifting your torso, I want you to press that leg down into the floor. The bent leg, I want you to press it into the floor. Press it into the floor. You're not going to really see anything, but you're going to feel a lot. Press that leg down into the floor. All right, now press and hold that leg down. All right, and then as you sit up, you can place your left hand onto the knee, press down onto the knee, and you'll turn your belly towards the straight leg. Okay, now what's going to happen when we lift the arm? That knee is going to want to come up. So press that knee down. You can even try to press it back. Reach up through your left arm. Don't let that knee come up. Get that length in the left side of your body. Exhale and come forward and catch the foot. Or use the strap. Right hand can come forward. It can be there to support you. Okay, now press both thighs down. Press the bent thigh down, the straight thigh down. Lift up and try to tip that top of the pelvis forward like we just did. Pull it with your hand and sit up tall. Find that length in the torso. Lift your chin and lift your sternum bone. Okay, and then pull with that left hand a bit more. You've got your right hand here on the floor. You can press down. Turn your belly towards the straight leg. All right, and then if you're ready, you can take both hands forward. You can hold a piece of strap in each hand, or you can hold the foot in each hand. Big deep breath in. We're working on that concavity in the back today. Tip the top of the pelvis forward, lift the sternum bone. All right, now we're going to come up. I want you to reach your arms forward, and then with your arms, pull yourself up. All right, and then you can bring that leg up, straighten out the leg. All right, I'm going to give you my side view. Now, my left knee has issues, so for those of you that have some knee issues, you can see how I handle this. All right, sitting on my blanket, you're going to bend your right knee. It's your right knee. I'm doing a mirror image of you. All right, so you're going to bring that leg to that Paddottanasana shape, that first stage shape that we had. You're going to come under the ankle, under the foot, roll that shin bone down and bring that knee back. Okay, and again, if it stays up high, you need more height here under your sit bones. All right, if it's at least hip height, then you just put something support under there. Usually a blanket is better than a block because the blanket will give as you press down some. All right, now we're going to turn toward that bent leg and we're going to lay down. All right, and so I was telling you, my knee, I'm just not quite as tight here, and I'm not pulling it back quite as far. All right, it seems to be okay this morning. All right, so we're just going to turn the belly Turn your whole belly and lay down onto that thigh. You can make fists with your hands if you want to take your head down. It does get tiring holding the head up. It's heavy. Or you can just be here. Or you can be here. Either way, you're taking weight into that leg. You feel that it is coming down to the floor. Other sit bone can be lifting. Leg might be turning in. That's fine. We're not worried about it right now. Now start to press that leg down. Nothing is really going to happen, but you're going to feel a whole lot. Right? Because you're using those abductor muscles. All right, now press and hold that knee, outer thigh down. Hold it down, hold it down, hold it down. Relax. All right, now we're going to hold that leg down, press down, actively press the leg down. Take your right hand onto the knee, hold it down as you turn. This is where it's going to want to pop up. If it has to pop up, that's where you slide some height under it. Okay, mine's going to want to come up when we come forward. I'm going to go ahead and put a little bit of height under that knee. All right, now the other hand is on the floor. It's supporting you, and you're going to press this leg down, this thigh down. You're going to reach up. Keep that length in the side like we did at the beginning. You're trying to lengthen that right side. Exhale and come forward. You can hold the foot, or if you need to, you can hold the strap. All right? Holding onto the foot or the strap, you can bring that left hand forward onto the floor. Press down with that left hand. Press down with both thighs and lift up. Try to take the top of your pelvis forward. So if you rock back and forward, back and forward, back. Now hold it forward. Pull with that arm and sit up tall. Really turn the belly towards that straight leg. Don't forget the thighs are pressing down. Big deep breath. All right, and then you can take both hands forward, either holding the foot or separate the strap. Have a piece of strap in each hand. Press your thighs down and lift up. You're pulling with your arms. You're letting the foot resist forward. Breathe. All right, and then you're going to reach the arms forward. Pull up with the arms. Right, and then the knee comes up. Straighten out the legs. Now, you can take the blanket lengthwise again, this way. Both sit bones onto that blanket. And then we're going to pull the sit bones back with our hands. All right, so it's not just the flesh. Get up there towards the sit bone and pull it back. If you look, let me undo it. If you watch, this foot is going to pull back. Right, so you see they're not even anymore. I haven't really shortened my leg. I've just moved the sit bone back. And then I can do that on the other side. And now it would feel a little bit easier to be leaning forward. So if I sit up completely straight, I've got a little bit of an arch in my lower back, which is fine. All right, you're going to press your thighs down, your outer hips down, and reach up through your arms. Find that length in the sides of the torso. And with an exhalation, come forward. If you need to use a strap, you've got a strap. Press the thighs down and lift up. Try to bring that top of the pelvis forward. Right? Lifting your sternum bone, lifting your chin up. We're trying to keep a nice flat back, which remarkably enough, right, gives a really nice hamstring stretch. All right? So you feel in your body. All right? Maybe everybody use a strap for a moment. And just give this. Crawl your hands forward with a nice round back. All right? it feels lovely in your back. It's a nice stretch of the back. But you know what? We do that all day long, right? Every time we sit down with this posture, all right? So instead, we're trying to find that length in the back. We're trying to find some extension in the back, all right, which is a back bendy position, all right? So you want to bring that top of the pelvis up and forward, all right? And then as you pull with your hands, you lift your chest, lift your sternum bone, press your thighs down. And then as you take your hands forward a bit, you re-engage that. And now you start to feel work in your back. You feel those muscles working in your back, and you start to feel a pretty intense stretch in the hamstrings. And you don't even have to go very low to start feeling that. All right, if you can get to your feet, get to your feet, and then you pull on those outer feet. Press the tops of the thighs down and bring that top of the sacrum forward. Rock it a couple of times. Right? And then hold. Breathe. And then we're lifting the arms to come up. All right? So you're going to reach the arms forward and then bringing the arms up. There'll be a natural point where the torso will come up with the arms. And release. All right? Let's cross the legs. Twist to your right. Twist to your left. Let's do the opposite. Cross of the legs again to your right and to your left. All right, that's it for today. Let's take a little Shavasana. All right, let's have 2 blankets. You can, of course, always just do a flat Shavasana if you feel like you need to put your calves on the seat of a chair or a bolster behind your knees. You can always do that. But let's take, especially if it's a morning practice, if you're doing this video in the morning, fold your blanket just lengthwise, and then you'll take your second blanket the way we were sitting on it, and that will become a little pillow for your head. Now, this edge of the blanket is going to be at your rib cage, so take this support off the mat a bit. And then when you sit, be in front of that blanket a little bit. Have your knees bent, and as you come down, let the bottom of the rib cage hit that edge of the blanket. So you see I've got a hole here. I can wave at you from under my lower back. You can pull this blanket under your head. Right? So you just want it to be under your shoulder blades and your rib cage. All right, grab the sides of the mat and give a gentle little tuck of the shoulders. Push towards your head. Feel the shoulder blades move towards your waist. All right, and then press into your feet. Lift your hips and tuck the buttocks. So now we're doing that opposite pelvic tilt. All right, and then you can straighten your legs. Now you may feel when you straighten the legs, everything shifts towards the legs a little bit. So you can grab the sides of the mat and just kind of drag back towards your head a little bit. Make sure that blanket is supporting the neck and the back of the head. So this allows the back to still kind of be in that concave back position, but it's nice and supported. The chest is staying open. Take a couple of nice deep breaths. With each exhalation, let muscles, tendons, ligaments, bones, skin, eyes, everything soften. Now, slowly, carefully bend your knees. Let the soles of your feet touch the floor. And then with one hand, place your hand in whatever you consider to be your gut. Some of us feel our guts a little bit lower in the abdomen. Some of us are up more by the stomach. Place one hand on your gut. The elbow might be off the floor a little bit. And then place your other hand where you feel your heart. Right? Maybe you're classically a little bit to the left where the heart actually is. Maybe you're more center of the chest, where you feel your heart. Elbow will probably be up for this. And just feel your breath under your hands there. You can take a few deeper breaths to exaggerate. Yoga, by definition, means union or yoking. Oftentimes we think of that as the yoking of body, mind, soul. Today I want you to feel under your hand the intuition in your gut. Feel the intelligence of your heart. Know that there is intellect in your head. Take a couple of nice deep breaths. And yoke the intuition in your gut, the intelligence of your heart, and the intellect of your head. And then you can release your arms as your elbows touch the floor so the arms can relax. Remember that you're up on a little bit of height, so you want to carefully roll to your side. You're there at home, roll to the side that's most comfortable or convenient for you. Take a breath there on your side, and then when you're ready, press with your arms to sit up. For just a brief bit here, keep your head low, your eyes closed. Any comfortable position that you want to sit in. Take a moment to thank yourself for coming to class and continuing your practice. And slowly raise your head. Slowly open your eyes. Thank you for practicing with me today.